Boom. Look at that. We're live.
Yay!
This keeps happening week after week. We somehow get live at 1500. It's an amazing thing. Technology.
Yeah, and now we are on the same coast, the same time zone.
You will not be late again.
Or say that I got the time mixed up, those darn time zones.
Yes, now we can just refer to everything Eastern time and those Western people can figure it out for themselves.
Yeah.
So I hope if we got the intro right, I hope this time, where everything kind of evened up, please let us know. So I'm going to put this banner up as we are required to do and turn it over to you real quick, DC1, so we can Jag stuff out of the way.
That's right. Okay, everybody, I hope you're ready. So before we get started on our show, we'd like to remind everybody that the views presented herein are those of individual speakers. Oh, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
We got you. Go ahead.
Okay. So the views presented herein are those of individual speakers and do not necessarily represent the official position of the DoD, the Department of the Navy, or any command within the United States Navy.
Yay. We're JAG good, JAG official. So, let's as we always do, let's go back to last week real quick.
Yeah.
Sherman Gillums Jr., powerful message about Vanessa Guillen. And about a lot of things that are going on, not just in the United States military, but let's be real. It's across the country. It's across the world. It's unacceptable. It's not okay. Be good humans, really, at the end of the day. So, again, shout out to Sherman Gillums Jr., Chief Warrant Officer, United States Marine Corps, retired. So there's that.
Hoorah, ooh-yah.
There you go. And a bunch of other things. All right. So as again, I'm live from Massachusetts, and you are in.
I am now newly relocated and live in North Potomac, Maryland. Potomac.
I think, and I'm pretty sure my history is correct, that George Washington threw a silver dollar across the Potomac, which I find impossible.
It must be really small.
Long distance across the Potomac. I don't think he threw any silver dollar across the Potomac. If he did, he would have a cannon like Vladimir Guerrero. Baseball fans know who I'm talking about. So,
but maybe he did. They didn't say that it reached the other side, did it?
I don't remember the story that well, but maybe it's just he threw it across and they never said it actually hit the other side here. So, all right. Real quick, I'm going to do this to you. Yes. Thank you all for tuning in. We would absolutely, first, we'd like to say, again, thank you for wherever you're at. We would absolutely love to hear where you're tuning in from, because we are live on a couple platforms, which is our Facebook platform as well as YouTube. And we're curious to find out where you're located. So please comment on the side so we know where you're tuning in from. And please share this platform with others who you believe could gain some knowledge or it could resonate with. And if it resonates with you, throw us a boom, as Master Chief Rodney loves to say, a boom little emoji or a thumbs up, just something to let us know like, hey, that was pretty good. And share, comment. Yeah. And don't forget, sharing is caring, especially with snacks. If you have any, I'll give you my address later and you can send your snacks directly to my house and I will eat them on the show and tell everybody how good they are. So, all right. So, outstanding. We already have people from Rhode Island, San Diego, Mississippi, really all over the place. Enfield, Connecticut, NC1 Boykin, soon to be Intag, New England. So, all right. Look, before we bring in our special guest today, we had a big event after our show last week, and I want to say it was Sunday morning. The USS Bonhomme Richard, named after Benjamin Franklin, if anybody didn't know that, caught fire. Massive blaze. They were in an overhaul period of some sort. I think the ship's going to be a total loss. I haven't seen any official. Some other people may know. If you know, put it on there. But here's what I want to talk about. Two things real quick. I want to talk about sailors and the civilians. And I want to talk about the resiliency of those people. So number one, I hear it all the time that this generation is less than our generation. And I used to teach a leadership class many moons ago, eons ago maybe,
And I found that the one thing interesting is you can find all these quotes from history about how the next generation is going to destroy the earth, right? We're always, the next guys aren't as good as us. It's pretty typical, right? In reality, I tend to believe that the next generation is way ahead of us, smarter than us, stronger than us, and they're going to lead us into a new world, right? Remember, we're the ones that raised the next generation. So if they are garbage, it's my fault, right? But I will tell you this: when I see this, when I read the stories, when I see the pictures, when I hear what has happened, I am going to tell you this about America's youth. They are strong, they are agile, and they are fierce. They are mentally resilient, and they are capable of doing things that most of us cannot. And I would point to the Bon Homer Shard in that regard of, and Jay Bell, one of our previous guests on here, DC.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
He was on the pier because he's out there on the O'Kane.
Mm-hmm.
And he was on the pier, and there was a sailor. And if you follow his page, he's remarked about it a couple of times. He tracked this kid down. This kid was in his coveralls, in a pair of cowboy boots, trying to go back on the ship and fight the fire.
Right.
And they I don't know if they had to physically restrain him or whatnot, but the point is that sailors wanted to move forward and fight that fire. They did not want to give up the ship. They wanted to be there. They wanted to make that difference. And for anybody who's watching that may not know about the United States Navy, ships, although big chunks of metal and equipment, they're like our family. You know, it's kind of a weird thing. And it's maybe that it reminds you of that relationships that you build. Maybe it's that you feel like you have some ownership of the legacy. But it's pretty phenomenal to me to know that those sailors went out there and they fought. And then not only did the sailors from the Von Homer Shard, sailors came from all over the basin and did some amazing things. It still may be a total loss, but I'll tell you this: she didn't sink to the bottom of the sea, which is miraculous in my mind. I thought when I saw that fire, I was like, that's no bueno.
Yeah. You know, they I heard that they contained actually the fire today. I think it was this morning.
Yeah, I think it's out.
Yeah, it is. But speaking of also the sailors, but the civilians around there, you mentioned civilians as well. You know, I had a few buddies that work for their local fire department out there, or not even just local, but around that area, who came in as well to assist in any way possible. Some of our Navy reservist firefighters are firefighters that are civilian firefighters, but also serve in the United States Navy.
No, it was a great job by all. I think the Navy reacted quickly. They kept everybody informed. You know, if you want to talk about leadership and what's the word I'm looking for? Somebody give me a word. Leadership in crisis. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, or under pressure. Yeah.
Or under pressure. This is exactly what we're looking at. We're looking at 25-year-old men and women leading 18-year-old men and women to do miraculous things. And then the old leadership, me, right, the 45-year-old guy, being able to communicate clearly to the public and to everybody else, so everybody has a very good understanding. So bravo Zulu to everybody involved in the fighting of that fire and what they did out there. So big show today.
Yes.
Big show. I'm excited.
You know, I'm really excited for our guest to share his story, because it's something that we don't talk enough about until recently. I'd say the past year or so, where we started bringing it out a little bit more and sharing resources a little bit more. But this is an incredible story about, as we mentioned last week, about resiliency and vulnerability. So can't wait for everybody to hear his story. It's very unique.
Bro, I tell you what, let's not delay the inevitable, and let's go ahead and like, subscribe, share, bells, whistle, dingy things, alerts, comments, all that stuff. And I'm going to throw up something here, and hopefully this all goes off without a hitch. When this video is gone, you will see Chief Petty Officer Jeff Bayless, United States Navy. So I hope this works. DC1, if not, it's your fault. Boom, he's there. It happened. Magic.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Not much, brother. Thank you for being here, Jeff. Number one, taking time out of your day to spend it with us and our viewers. We could not be happier to have somebody like you on our show and to be able to share your story.
Yeah, it's a great honor, honestly. I do this stuff, basically just to try to help the sailors, and I know you guys are doing that as well. It's really all about everybody else that can benefit from this conversation. So hopefully I can add value and, help somebody that needs to hear this, honestly.
All right. So let's, we're constrained by time.
Sure.
To a degree. We always go over and we don't really care. So I will say this. I want to kind of jump right into it. And I've seen your story. I've spoken with you. You were in a really dark place.
Yes.
Like really dark place, a bad place. Tell us about it.
So in my darkest moment, it's really hard to get right to the end. But I'll do my best to try to make it brief with the history, right? So, joined the Navy, had a troubled childhood. Everybody has to say the Navy gives you a great opportunity, whether you're escaping a bad environment or just looking for a new opportunity. It is an opportunity, right? And I have since learned hubris is not good, and I've gained some humility. But I did very well in my career, and I made chief in 8 years. I made LDO in 10 years. I had a very successful tour on the USS Oak Hill as a ship's bosun, and then I reported to Theodore Roosevelt as the assistant first lieutenant, and we were about to do an around-the-world deployment. And at my darkest place, to answer your question directly, I was an officer in the Navy. I was a limited duty officer. I was $40,000 in debt. I was facing a civilian DUI case. I was facing a divorce, child support, a custody battle. I was 35 pounds underweight. I was facing a board of inquiry. I was facing a detached for cause, and I was essentially homeless. I was kind of in a transition period. It's hard to say you're really homeless when you're in the Navy because you can always live on the ship, right? But yeah, so in a nutshell, in a very, to sum up 17 or 16 years, at the time, I guess I had 14 years in, but that was my dark place. That was my rock bottom where, things got very dark for me.
In debt, divorce, unhealthy, career implications. Jeff, did you ever contemplate suicide? Did you have a plan?
Yes. This is a touchy subject. And so I will just say that I'm not a mental health expert. I'm only going to speak from my experience. But yeah, the suicidal ideations definitely crossed my mind. And I think what goes through most people's mind is that it's not that you really want to not live anymore. It's that you want the pain to stop, and you want some relief. Right. And so and this is totally my fault, right? Like a lot of this was self-inflicted. I'm not passing blame on anyone, my ex-wife, the Navy, my leadership, nothing. But I did not want to reach out for help because I was afraid that I would lose my security clearance. I was afraid that I wouldn't get my promotion. I was afraid that I wouldn't progress in the deck LDO community. And so I wore this mask of masculinity and kept doing Ironman distance triathlon, kept standing. Operation Inherent Resolve. I was officer of the deck on Theodore Roosevelt in the middle of the Persian Gulf with all this stuff going on. And I'm not talking to anybody. Like I'm literally just compartmentalizing everything and reading a lot of Stoic philosophy to try to suck it up and push through every day. And so where I would wake up every morning and just think, it's today the day. And then I think what kept me was I am faith-based. I am a Christian, and I knew that God had a purpose for me. I don't push my religion on anyone else, but that's my personal experience, was that I knew God had a plan for me. I just didn't know what it was at the time. Also, with suicide, for me, I'm only speaking for me. I could not be so selfish to hurt those that love me, right? And that was really what kept me here. I have 2 beautiful kids. My wife is amazing. Actually, the counsel of my wife was way better than any therapist. I'm not poo-pooing therapy. Actually, I have a therapy appointment on Monday. So go for that. Do that stuff too, right? It all helps. It all levels up your mental health and your wellness. But those 2 things, my faith and just knowing that, and guys, I think what we get so caught up in our own trauma that's been compounded over years. And then we get to a point where, that's all we can think about. That's, literally the only thing, and it impacts your ability to do your job. Like, I was not optimal in my job during that time because I was not able to, release these thoughts from my mind. And so, for me, that was just having the conversations with my wife, and then that unconditional love. And then, so the message I share now is that we all deserve love. You deserve to be loved. And then the real truth is that we want you to be your best self, right? Like, I want to see the best out of DC1 and Master Chief. You know what I mean? And it's hard when you're in this spiral. You don't think about that. All you're thinking about is, what bad news am I going to get today? What else can I possibly put into this pressure cooker that's going to tip the scale where today is the day where I decide it's just not worth going on? And the reality is, it's always worth going on. And I'm living proof. Like, my life is amazing now. Like, I'm so grateful to be alive, and I'm so grateful to be here with you guys and hopefully, help some sailors. And that's really what drives me now, is just trying to be of service, No,
I love it. And thank you for being so open. This is what we're getting right now. Thank you for sharing. That was a lot with the buggy eyes. Respect. Thank you for sharing hard facts. None of this is easy. It's probably not easy for you to talk about right now. This is what, as you well know, you're more than anyone that of the three of us, most likely, you're the one that has lived through this, and you're the one that has pulled yourself out of that dark moment. Like we talked with Sherman Gillums last week. Unfortunately, right after we talked with Sherman Gillums and we talked about high energy leaders committing suicide, like you were, rocket ship in the Navy, LDO, high energy leader, high impact leader, right off the bat, nobody knows what you're going through. You could have had that one straw. It could have happened. Then we learned on Saturday, I think, that the Army's Captain America, the 5 deployments, Master Sergeant in the Army, high profile job at the Pentagon, took his own life in front of his wife. And if you haven't read the story, it's definitely worth a read. But we never know what those people are going through. We never know. And like you said, you never talked to anybody about it on your ship or anything like that. And when you hold it in, eventually something's going to give. Did that thing ever give with you that either forced you to get that help, or that said, you know what, I'm to a point where if I don't get it, it's going to happen?
Yeah, I would have to say, for me, it was the encouragement from my wife that, I knew that she taught me that I was a human being, not a human doing. She was the first one to kind of present this idea to me that, I didn't need to be an Ironman distance triathlete. I didn't need to, bring home a bunch of money. I didn't need, it's about what's in my chest, not what's on my chest. And so, she was the first one that kind of explored this idea with me. And then also, I have to give myself a little bit of credit. Like, I just started reading, you know what I mean? Like, I just started reading books and listening to audiobooks and listening to podcasts. And, you have a choice when you consume information. So anybody that's consuming this right now is definitely thinking about bettering themselves, or they would not be tuning in, right? But what happens is there's all this other clickbaity information, like, Netflix and, all these things that are easy, like the candy, right? Like these are the things that we enjoy. And I do too. Like, I watch movies, guys. I'm not saying, that all I do is read books and run. But, if you're mindful of the information you're consuming, then those things don't go away. And if even if you read 17 self-help books that all talked about the same thing, that's getting those reps and sets in your mind where you're like, okay, I understand that, the ego is a thing. And I understand that Aristotle had 7 principles of virtue, right? And so, like, what are these virtues, and how do I want to show up in the world? Like, do I want to be courageous, or do I just want to check the box that says, this is what Jeff Bayless is supposed to be? And I had a failure. I certainly did. I failed my chain of command. I failed those sailors on that ship, but I'm still a good human being, and that's I think what holds people back is that we're so afraid of failure, but really without failure, there's no way to grow. If everything's just handed to you and you never make a mistake, then life is going to be very easy for you, but it's also not going to be rewarding, right?
It's going to be pretty boring.
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty, and you're probably not going to accomplish a lot. in that, and you're not going to grow and develop other people around you as well. Everybody out there in the world, I want to let you know that Jeff and I have talked, and he's very open to taking questions. So if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to put something out there. We understand it's a touchy subject. We understand it's a difficult subject, but Jeff and I were talking earlier today. It is an important subject where that conversation needs to continue to happen, whether it's in an environment like this, on a podcast, video cast, whatever this is, right? Or whether it's a conversation that happens in that human-to-human connection in your command, in an organization, on the street, in your house. And you said your wife saved you. That conversation was between two people. It wasn't this platform that in and of itself saved you. You can't just keep listening to things. You have to have those real connections at one point to make the difference. So please ask the questions. Jeff will give you the answer if he can. And if not, we're going to have some other resources come up for you here shortly.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about resources for a minute, if you would. So, I think we have this stigma, or I'll just speak for myself, right? Like, I had this stigma where, like, even as a Christian, I didn't want to go talk to the chaplain because he was in uniform, right? And we would talk, but not really. You know what I mean? And I wanted to talk to someone, but I felt like these programs that were out there, like the DAPA program, the mental health, like going to talk to a psychiatrist, I was like, oh man, I certainly don't want to just get put on an SSRI, and then, the first question they're going to ask me is if I carry a gun in the nature of my work, and so all of these things you're thinking, okay, I don't want to reach out because I don't want it to impact my career, or more importantly, this label that I put on myself that I am all these things that I'm doing, right? And so what happens is you go even further into this compartmentalized mentality that is not helping you grow. And so to talk about the resources, I just want to say the programs are designed to help you. That is the reality. And I don't think that that's talked about enough. I think we think that the programs are designed to, even breathalyzers on a quarterdeck, right? So those aren't designed to get you in trouble. They're designed to pinpoint if you have a problem to where you're showing up to work under the influence of alcohol. And so we need to work with you about that. It's just designed to help you optimize. And so we're doing better. We are definitely doing better. But we need to get to a point where sailors feel like they can express themselves and talk about these hard topics so that they can be better at home, because, it's all like a bicycle wheel is the analogy I use. Like, it's a spoke on a bicycle wheel. And if any spoke gets out of true, right? If any spoke gets bent, that tire's wobbly, right? So we have to keep a balance in order to go straight, right? And to do our best work. And so, use the resources is what I'm trying to say. That was a long-winded way to say that, but the resources are really designed to help you. They're not designed to hurt you. They're not designed. I'm utilizing all the resources now, and I'm retiring with a very successful career. It did not kick me out of the Navy. I failed greatly. I made a huge mistake. I owned up to it. I used the resources, and I'm closing out a very successful 20-year career where I've been able to help and impact thousands of sailors. So, if nothing else, if I could just encourage people, like, use the resources, man, you're gonna be better, and people around you, more importantly, people around you are gonna benefit from you getting that help and talking about the hard stuff.
100%. So I got one question. Well, I have a lot of questions. I already say one question and it ends up being 38. No, here's a big question is, you made mistakes, the debt, the marriage, the alcohol. What led you to make those mistakes? What was there something that was in your head? Like you said, you had a rough childhood. Look, as we all know, when stuff goes bad, everybody goes back to, I had a bad childhood, right? How much of that was true bleed over? How much do you think was maybe you not understanding where you sat as a young man at 20, and you made those compounding mistakes throughout your career and throughout your adulthood?
Great question. Yeah. So I don't want to dismiss the compounding trauma. I'm not specifically disagreeing with you, but I do not want to dismiss that, because that is a real thing. I've seen my babysitter tied up with an extension cord at gunpoint. I was sexually abused as a young kid. I've broken my hands 4 times and getting in fights. I've been to jail where they, basically I got in fights there too, so like all of that trauma does not just go away when you don't deal with it. And then you join the Navy. And even though it is a fresh start and it's a great opportunity to better your life, that doesn't go away if you don't deal with it. It's still in the back of your mind. I mean, I still double check all my doors and set my alarm at night, like that stuff doesn't just go away. Right. But what led to my failure was this coping mechanism of just do more, be more. Right. And also I mentioned it earlier, but we kind of have this idea of, go out with your shield or come home with your shield or come back on it, right? This, old warrior mentality of, either die in battle or don't come home at all, right? And so I wore this mask of masculinity. And I think that we have to recognize as human beings that you can call it soft and strong, you can call it masculine and feminine, you can call it whatever energy you want to call it. And I don't want to get too woo-woo, but the reality is I only knew how to project strength and power, and I did not know how to love and to have compassion and how to have humility, right? Like I was super cocky because, I'm a humble man now, but I'm smart, so like boatmating I loved it and I was good at it. I'm still good at it. Like I consider myself a subject matter expert for deck evolutions, no problem. But that, getting those to that level where, nothing was really, I'm not going to say it wasn't challenging, but I did very well at it. And so I allowed that to feed into my ego without having any kind of coping mechanism other than working out, partying, or getting the next promotion. Right. So I was not centered. And that's what led to my failure. And also I didn't pay attention to warning signs. Like I think there's all these bells and whistles that go off with us, but we just compartmentalize them because that's what we're used to that's going back to the childhood stuff. Like I remember there was a guy on my ship that sexually abused a sailor on the ship. And I remember saying in the chief's mess, I was like, man, if that happened to me, I would never admit it. Like I would take that to my grave. Right. The reality was because it did happen to me and that's exactly what I was doing. Right. And it just was not healthy. And so, I think you have to find your truth and know who you are, like be who you are. We want to see you who you are, not this, you don't need to put on a show for anyone. Like that's how you do the best work is just being your real self, being authentic and transparent, or you can call it, vulnerable if you want. Some people in the military don't like vulnerable, but transparency, authenticity, those are the ways to get through and not have these negative coping mechanisms.
Yeah, that's powerful. I would, I think when I look back over the careers, and I was in the Marine Corps before I joined the Navy, I grew up with a single mother, 3 kids. We weren't very well off. I am sure that there are things that in my life I have just blocked. Mm-hmm. I probably don't even remember them at this point. Maybe somewhere in the dark recesses of my mind, and they may bubble up in a future time, but definitely our upbringing, our childhood, and how we're raised, and all of those things end up affecting who we are as adults and how we deal with trauma, and how we deal with conflict as mm-hmm. well. So, man, that's powerful. The fact that you can speak to it, and I want everybody out there that sees this over the next, however long it's on the internets, however long that we keep this going, I want everybody to understand that is number one, it is okay to get help. It is okay.
Yes.
It's okay to bring it up. It's a tough subject, and there's such a stigma with it. I know there is. I talk to my sailors, and we've been able to help some sailors, and what has happened with them or to them has never left my mouth, nor would it. I don't think it's ever left the skippers or the XOs or the CMCs, nor would it, because it's important for us to get to get them that help that they need and allow them to continue to act in the United States Navy, or however they want to in the world. But that's the key, is they have to get that help. They have to use those resources. Go ahead.
Well, I just think that too, like you may have this, this is not like new information or anything, but you have this idea of like, this is the ladder that I'm climbing. Right. And then, so, for me, that was becoming a deck LDO. Like my goal was to make captain. Right. And so you're climbing this ladder, and then you get to a certain point where you're like, oh man, this ladder is like against the total wrong building. Right. Like, this was not actually my calling. Like are you guys familiar with the hero's journey? It's like, so basically we're all living, it's a philosophy. You can Google it. Like it's really worth checking out because everybody's like,
yeah, we'll all Google it. DC1, put that in hero's journey. I'll Google that later.
Yeah. So it's a philosophy of basically like, we're all living in this cycle of like a hero's journey where you have this call to adventure and then, you have this catastrophic event and then you drink the elixir and then you go slay the dragon. Right. So we're all kind of living through the same. And if you just kind of understand that this is the season of your life that you're in, when you're in those dark moments, that this is just a season, like COVID-19, this is just a season right now. Like we're going to come out on the other side of it. And so just understand the hero's journey that you're on. And then on the other side of that, what happens is you exponentially are more powerful because now you have that wisdom, right? Because on the other side of that, you have that wisdom. And I'm not claiming to be enlightened or have all this wisdom, but I can tell you from everything that I've been through in my life that I have a great impact to help others. Do you know what I mean? And that's also important too. Like if you have that wisdom, it has to be backed up with some sort of morality, right? Some sort of integrity, some sort of good intention. Because if we're relating it to leadership and sailors, they're going to know the minute that you're fake and you're just making stuff up or you're putting on a show, like they're going to, tuned out. Like you lost me, dude. Like, so, if you have this wisdom, like I think there's some very wise leaders out there, but they're not backed up with morality. I'm not speaking specifically in the Navy, but just in general, there are some leaders out there. I won't name names, but there's a lot of wisdom out there, but if it's not backed up with morality, then you end up dying on the wrong side of history. Or your legacy is not what you wanted it to be.
100%. That's a good thing. So, I just getting into Greek mythology, and I think that that's where some of this may come from, of the Greek gods and the demigods who did some of this. Just looking through what DC1 put up there, so I'm actually gonna read that. That'll be pretty interesting. DC1, over to you. What do we have? Anything out there in YouTube and Facebook land?
I always do that.
I know. it's one of our,
because I put myself on mute because I'm this is what I do when I'm listening. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
Didn't Nick Bond tell you not to become part of the story?
I can't help it. He said, "Do not become the audience. You're like in the show. Yeah. Don't be an audience." I can't help it because I'm like I get so in like I'm listening, so I'm like I'm picturing it all, just taking it all in. And then I was like, oh yeah, I'm on the show. So I got to hit unmute. I'm so sorry. So I just posted some of the comments that some of our viewers are saying. And it sounds like everybody overall really appreciates you sharing your story and just being so honest about it and transparent about what you have gone through in life. NC1 Franquez mentions that just like a vehicle, we get the check engine light and it comes on and you may seem to ignore it like it will go away. And then that last part right here is it will not go away. So thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah, I think too, with to your point, DC1, and sharing what I 100% honest, like complete, this was like a cathartic experience for me in sharing my story. Right. And so initially it was, about it was somewhat therapeutic for me to share my story. You know what I mean? And then when you share, you think, okay, well, hopefully this helps at least one person in the crowd. Right. But then it's hard to call it like service because it's so rewarding when I get a text message. It's like, hey, that podcast you recorded saved my life. Or, I went and talked to a counselor and my relationship's a lot better. Or, just whatever. Like I get this stuff all the time and it's just so rewarding. And the other thing I would say is, your story is not unique, you're not alone. Like I thought I was just like, and to be honest, like I still feel like my life is like watching a movie sometimes. I'm like zoom out. I'm like, geez, man, like, this would make a great movie, right? But a book. Yeah.
Somebody was asking when they can't wait to read your book.
I'm definitely going to write a book. Yep. I'm actually already working on it, but I'm waiting until I retire to kind of do that. But what I would say is, if you're struggling, you're not alone. And if you think that your story is so unique, like I did, I thought I was so, like, how could all of this happen to me? Right. Well, the reality is my story is not unique. There are a lot of people that are struggling with more or less things, but it's how you interpret that struggle. right? So, whatever world you're living in, whatever your bubble is, whatever vacuum you're living in, some people have different coping mechanisms. And so your story is not all that unique. I mean, although mine is unique to me, you're not alone in that struggle. And so, I think just understanding that we're all kind of living this hero's journey and that it's never really you're never really going to arrive. We're all going through these things. So you're not alone, you're not unique, and, don't be afraid to, share it and get some good out of it.
Wow. All right. So we're going to give everybody an opportunity to like, subscribe, share, do all that fun stuff again. If you have any questions, I'm going to hit Jeff with one more question here, and then we'll see what DC1 has. But in that time frame, if you have a question, please don't be hesitant to put something on there. So, Jeff, here's my next question to you. You're doing a lot of things right now to get this message out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to kind of tell us, we've talked about your past, your history, right? The upbringing, the time in the Navy, the place that you were at. So kind of how you got over it. But here's the next thing. What are you doing right now, to use the old cliche, to pay it forward to help other people?
Yeah. I think the most undervalued resource that we have that should be your number one resource is meaningful conversations, like we're having right now. If I had someone that I could talk to, or if somebody had said to me the things, as a tough macho boastmate I'm tatted up, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like I was hardcore, right? So if somebody had this conversation with me, you can't say what would have happened, right? I mean, everything happens for you, not to you, right? I meant to say that earlier. Like everything really is just you think it happens to you, but really it's happening for you so that you can grow later. But the most undervalued resource is meaningful conversations. So I try to do that. Like I just reach out to try to help. I reached out to you guys. I was like, hey, I'm sure I can help at least one person that needs to talk about some stuff. So that comes in the form of the podcast. I interview, I've had Navy SEALs, congressmen, I've had seaman recruits that got out after 4 years. So it's all over the place. It's very diverse. If you're interested in introspection and in self-development and growth, it's a good podcast for you. If you're not into that, don't check it out. That's cool. But it's been helpful for some, and so I'm doing the podcast. I also offer, and I will continue to offer after I get out of uniform. I do a evolution through resilience talk with commands where I go into a little more detail about exactly how I got to my rock bottom, right? Like that takes me about 30 minutes to explain. And then I just share basically what we're talking about here. So I do command safety stand downs, ships that are coming in and out of dry dock. I do that for them. It gets really busy around the summer and winter. But so I would offer that virtually like we're doing now. If anybody has a command, I don't care. Like I'll do 10 people, I'll do 3,000. I've done aircraft carriers. I've flown to Hawaii to talk to, I don't care. Like I'll do it. It felt like a gentle tug at first, but then it just became this burning fire to really just try to be of service, man, just to, help someone that I just don't want somebody to have to go through what I did,
No, I agree. So what we're going to do is after this, we'll share a link on the Leadership Within's page, on the Facebook page, at least, because I don't know how to do the YouTube thing, but I'll share it on the Facebook page, the link to your podcast.
Cool.
If anybody wants to check it out, please check it out. And like Jeff said, if you're into introspection and you're into that stuff and you want to learn a little bit, maybe you think you are unique and people don't have these same problems, tune in and you may find out a little bit different, and it may be able to give you that help that you need.
Yes.
So I think that's important. Giving back is vital. And I think that you're probably 100% correct, where people think that these problems are unique to them and nobody else could possibly understand. Oh, she just put it up there. Anchor.fm/Jeff-Bayless.
Mm-hmm.
So it's already there. DC1, you are on the spot as always.
Yeah, it's on Anchor and Spotify too. It's the evolution. It's pretty easy to find. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And aren't you also on the motivation?
No. What is that?
Oh, is that somebody else that's motivation, DC1? You made me get on a motivation thing. I don't know what it is. She makes me get on.
No, yeah, no. I was sharing with him you did the Veterans Path.
Oh, Veterans Path. Yes.
Yeah, and that was you sharing your story. It was just.
Yep. Yeah, that was a pretty good interview with my friend John McCaskill. He's a retired Commander, Navy SEAL. Super good dude. And actually, that brings up a good topic of another resource that gets undervalued is mindfulness, right? And so I think a lot of people think that, it's woo-woo, hippy-dippy, we're military. And now they have it in boot camp, actually. I interviewed Steve Drum, another Navy SEAL that actually started that program in boot camp, the mindfulness program. But I think we just don't need to overthink the mindfulness thing. If I don't really super meditate for like 30 minutes a day, but I am mindful. So like Eckhart Tolle talks about the power of now, and you're not your thoughts, you're your interpretation of your thoughts, right? And so if you're mindful about the information you consume, or if like right now I'm having this conversation, I'm not on my cell phone, I'm not wondering what I'm going to do after this. Like right now I'm thinking about the present moment, right? And so mindfulness can be the last mile of a 5-mile run where you just turn everything off and you sit with your thoughts. It can be breathing. There's box breathing. So I would encourage a lot of people to check out. It's been really helpful for me. I did like a short breathing session before I came on here just to make sure I was centered. So it's really helpful, especially if you have to get up and, talk to people, or if you're dealing with stuff, or I still struggle with anxiety. Even though you would think I'm an extrovert and that I'm easy to talk to, but I struggle with anxiety. And so the breathing, the mindfulness helps my blood pressure go down. Some of the physical reactions like sweating, elevated heart rate, all these things that come up because of anxiety, it helps that. So mindfulness is key. Yep.
All right. DC1, I know we have 2 big questions. You tracking those 2? Okay. That's it. Now I want to go to Jeremy Quinlan. Do you see that he put 2 big long things up there? He was on the Fitzgerald during the accident. And then what he goes on to say in the second part. So you read that, Jeff?
I can.
All right. And let me know when you're done with that paragraph, and then I'll put the second part up there. So you kind of get the whole context.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So Jeremy, to answer your question, or if I guess you're kind of asking for advice.
Well, so here's the second part. He wants to claim disability, but he may also want to come back in the Navy.
Right. So here's what I would tell you with that. I get that. And that kind of goes back to the climbing the ladder and then finding out that maybe it's placed against the wrong building. Right. I think sometimes we get caught up in this is what I'm supposed to do. This is who I'm supposed to be. But then if you still have issues, you're never going to actually arrive at your best self. And that may not be the path for you. The path, the ultimate path, like, dude, I was going to do 39, 40 years in the Navy. Like that was what I thought my path was. My path had to pivot. And so I think you have to be open to pivot and put yourself first. The oxygen mask goes on you first. Take care of you. And then wherever that ends up, whether that's in the Navy, out of the Navy, you're going to be a better flourishing human being and you're going to be happier. So it's kind of like what, I don't want to be pessimistic, but it's like, what set of problems would you rather have? Right. So would I rather have, either way, you're going to have a consequence for any decision you make in life. Coming on this podcast, I'm going to have somebody that didn't like what I shared. Right. There's a consequence to every decision you make. You just have to decide, which burden am I willing to shoulder? Which consequence is, worth it? So would I rather get the help I need to be a healthy human being, or would I rather come back in the Navy knowing that I still have a problem that I never addressed? And I can't make that decision for you, but that's how I would look at that question.
Great answer. All right. DC1, how about Jennifer Kelly's?
Okay. Yep. And I'm going to read this one also in case somebody is just listening in to the audio portion. Yeah. So Ms. Jennifer Kelly asked us, do you think that there is a need to get away from the fear of rank to enforce compliance? I try to share with my junior sailors that the more rank means that there is more experience, that they're terrified to talk to chief or an officer about anything.
Yeah. So yes, there's definitely a need. I went from being a chief petty officer to an officer for 8 years and then back into the chief's mess. So what I would tell you from those two unique experiences in leadership is that it is different, right? It is a different role, even between the limited duty officer and the chief warrant officer, completely different role, right? Same with a CMC as opposed to a master chief that's still operating in their rate. So we need to do better. I think some of the, I'm just speaking from my experience, some of the ask the chief is probably a good tagline. However, results, not excuses, maybe not as good. The closed door, I think we could probably open that up a little bit. I think that you have to be approachable. I've never used my rank, and I get treated like a commander on my ships by the captains. I mean, they treat me, but that, I think too, we think everything is so objective in the military. We think that things are objective. I hope that makes sense. Like, we think everything is black and white, right? The reality is everything is subjective. Everything is a conversation away from the win. If you have an inspection, you can call it song and dance, you can call it whatever you want, but shaking hands and kissing babies and reaching out to your inspector prior to is how you get to that win, right? You can have all your stuff squared away, but if you don't play the game, right, and you have to decide what game you're playing. But to answer your question more directly, yes, I don't think it's what's on your chest. I think it's what's in your chest. I think that you have to build trust up and down the chain of command. And once you get that trust, I feel like the sailors that I lead, I know that they trust me. I just do. I can't explain it. I don't know how. I just know that they know they can talk to me because I'm transparent. Like, what you get is what you get, And so, yes, we definitely, if you have to use your rank, that's a poor sign of leadership, in my opinion.
No.
That was a good one. Did you guys hear that? I'm going to say that again. It's not what's on your chest. It's what's in your chest.
I was going to ask you to write that down. I know that's like maybe the third or fourth time you said it. And each time you say it, it gets a little bit more powerful and it has a little bit more meaning. So I know DC1 kind of pointed and I was looking and it was, it's the rank doesn't matter. And the awards, you brought it up before. It's really what's in your heart that matters. So
well, and so look at me, for example, right? So I was a lieutenant driving an aircraft carrier. Now I'm a chief. Does that mean I don't have the ability to still drive warships? No, of course I do. So does the rank actually matter? No, it's your ability to do the job, right? So, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it does matter. We need to respect the tradition and the rank, obviously, but that's already inherently understood.
100%. So we're going to go to Senior Chief Levi out of San Antonio, part of the Good to Great with the Crazy Eights, is adopting that one down there for San Antonio. So good stuff. So real quick, we're going to transition from this. I'll give you a little bit more in a moment in a second to kind of wrap everything up and give you a word as we always do. But I want to talk real quick. If you could offer one book, or maybe in your case two.
It's so hard to do.
I know it is. But what we had was, with the MCPON had like 38 books.
Yeah.
Right? You just don't have time for 38 books. But we never did get his list up by the one DC1. Remind me later. Maybe I'll dig it off of his office page and put it up there. But if you have some book recommendations for our sailors to read, or some podcasts other than yours, we already plugged yours, but some other things, podcast or books that you recommend for our sailors.
Yeah, great. So books, I'd go, number one is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. He was in a Nazi concentration camp as a Jewish man, and he basically got all freedom stripped away from him. You think we're at you hear my story and you think, wow, what a rock bottom. Like, this guy hit rock bottom, right? So you talk about a story about perspective, maintaining, positive mental attitude, resilience, looking at the silver lining, how to bounce back from really just horrible situation. So Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning is a must read. The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday is really good. That helps you understand that, it's not the impediments in action, advances action, what stands in the way becomes the way. So in fact, the obstacle is the way. So like, failure is the key to success. And then I know everybody loves Jocko. So I don't actually recommend extreme ownership, but I do recommend Dichotomy. Extreme ownership is good too, but Dichotomy of Leadership is good because we need to understand that there is a balance to all things. And if you're just so hard, on one area, like if all you care about is 3M, but you don't care about preservation, your department's going to fail, right? So, there's a dichotomy to everything. There's a balance in every approach to leadership. And then the last one would be really just an author, not a book. It would be Brene Brown. She taught me in her work that it was okay to be transparent. It was okay to be vulnerable. She got a group of like pipe hitters into a room and asked them all to describe a time when they were courageous without being vulnerable. And none of them could admit that they had ever been courageous without being vulnerable. And so, Dare to Lead by Brene Brown, super good book. It definitely gets you thinking that transparency is key to real growth, development, leadership, and honestly, to be a servant, right?
Wow. So that's a lot of reading. Thank God I listen to audiobooks. So
yeah, me too.
You better step up your game, guys. You better have all of those.
I just got a new badge. It was like I've reached 300, so it like gave me some badge. Anyway, yeah, for sure.
Hey, I will say this. I sent Simon Sinek an email the other day. He has not replied. Simon, calling you out. All right, Jocko, I asked for you to come to our banquet. Haven't heard back from you. Calling you out. All right, all these people, I'm calling you out. We're going to reach out. Come on our show for free because we ain't got no monies.
To quote Simon Sinek, I think it was in The Infinite Game, or it might have been in Start With Why, but he said something pretty profound that I think is good for your audience too, is just because you have a problem doesn't mean you are the problem, right? So that's really, that when I read that really stuck with me because, we have problems, personal or professional. It doesn't mean that you are the problem. It just means you get the opportunity to create the solution.
Wow. That's a very poignant, especially for today's topic. So
yes.
All right. So we're going to move on to the next one. You've already quoted like 18 quotes. So I'm going to make you narrow it down a little bit and give us some things that really mean a lot to you that they would like to share with our audience.
Yeah. So it's kind of a long one and it's hard. Like I read a lot. I also listen to a lot of podcasts and audiobooks. And so like, it's really hard to narrow down one, but I have narrowed it down to one for you guys. So it's been my interpretation of this quote that, we go through life and we think that, kind of like we talked about earlier, that it's unique to us and that, I'm the only one dealing with this struggle. And I think you go through life understanding that you're going to have struggles. And so, we're all in the arena. You don't get to choose whether you're in the arena or not. You just make the best decisions with the information you have, with the tools that God gave you, and go forth, right? And so sometimes that's going to lead to failure. But it's better to be in the arena and fail than to never try, right? To just stay in your safety zone because nothing happens inside your comfort zone. So this is the quote. Do you want me to read it? It's kind of long. You're muted. Now he did it.
We're both muted. Yes, if you could, please.
All right, I'll read it. Yeah. So it is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows in great enthusiasms the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end of triumph, of high achievement, and who, at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. So his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. And that means a lot to me. I have it on my wall here at home, in the office at work. I carry it with me in my will book everywhere I go. Just to remind me that we're all in the arena. Again, you're not alone. We're all struggling, and we're just trying to figure this thing out called life and be the best humans we can to serve our country.
Yeah. Let me see if I can unmute him because he's still muted. You're still muted. You're doing
I said it hits in the heart. I mean, it's like this whole show has been a heart punch. And I know it takes a lot of courage, Jeff, and it takes a lot of vulnerability. And you've talked about that a lot, and they go hand in hand. In order to be courageous, you have to be vulnerable. And
yes.
It's an important thing to take away from this lesson for everybody, and to remember you're not unique. Your situation may be a little different, but you're not unique in everything about you. So strong stuff. I'm going to leave. I'm going to give DC1 real quick before we give you the floor to see if she has anything or she wants to say before we open it up to you and we back out for a few minutes and let you talk directly to the audience. So DC1, over to you.
Yes. Was there, before we turn in that direction, was there any other quotes, or was that your favorite quote that you wanted to share with everybody?
Yeah, that's my favorite. I mean, I've got a ton. There's one by Amby Burfoot that talks about not surrendering or abandoning ship. And so it's basically like, less is still something, right? So whatever you're going through, even if you're only able to provide less is still something. Don't abandon ship. Just keep going, even if it's less. And that's more of like a running guide, but it still applies to those in leadership positions. If you're not able to give 1,000%, we'll take 20. It's okay to take a knee, and less is still something. Don't abandon ship.
Yeah. We'll have to pin that up there for our viewers to be able to.
Yeah, I don't have it on me right now, but it's Amby Burfoot. Yep.
Okay. No worries. No, but viewers, thank you once again for tuning in with us. We really appreciate all of your support, and we ask that you share this podcast with others who you think could gain some valuable information and need to hear maybe some of these stories and experiences that other people in the world have gone through to help them along the way. We've posted some great resources as well, just some information about different book recommendations and quotes. So if you like what you've heard today, please go ahead and like, share, subscribe, click that alert button if you're on YouTube, so that way you don't miss out on any of our future every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern time, so you don't miss out on those, same time zone. But really quick before you continue on, what you had mentioned last about the quote, "The man in the arena," it reminds me of. Are you familiar with Les Brown?
No, I'm not.
Les Brown, one of my favorite mentors as well, inspiring motivational speaker, also has gone through a lot in life, and he says something along those lines, like the man in the arena, where it's when you are at your deathbed, what dreams will you take with you?
Yeah, I think that, this is a philosophy that I've talked about a lot, but it's basically to go back to Matt Chief's question earlier too, about what was part of my failure, was that I was so worried about my legacy and my reputation that I forgot completely about my virtues, my value system, and my character. And so if you just focus on your character of being a good dude, just try to be a good human, right? That legacy is going to take care of itself. And then you talk about goals, like my short-term goal is to find a job outside of the Navy that's fulfilling, right? My long-term goal is when that eulogy is read, they don't say, limited duty deck officer. They're not going to say chief boatswain. I mean, maybe they will, but what they're going to say, hopefully, is like, Jeff Bayless helped a lot of people, man. Like, he put himself out there. He had the courage. He just said, he shot it real. It is what it is. He called a spade, and he helped a lot of people. And that's what you're talking about. And, that's my long-term goal, is just have that said at my eulogy.
Nice. The dash.
When I'm 100.
The dash, right?
Yeah, it's all about the dash.
All right. So I'm going to back DC1 and I out, and we're going to open up the floor. It's what we're trying after, the Chief Warrant Officer Gillum last week, where it's just focused on you. So with that being said.
Yeah, I just think if I was talking directly to somebody that needed to understand that, we're all going to struggle in life. You're going to have moments of challenge. You're going to have moments of triumph. Don't over-identify with those things in your life, but at the same time, pay attention to the bells and whistles that are going off so that you don't have some catastrophic event that sends you on a negative trajectory until you find a time where you can course correct it. Use the resources. Reach out to me if you need to. I'm not a mental health expert, but I'll listen. There's so much out there for you. And it's counterintuitive that you think that, if I share what's going on with me, or if I, take a knee from sea duty, I mean, I'm going to wrap up a 20-year career with 18 years at sea, right? And so, that's great. But if I had taken a knee, maybe I could have course corrected some of these problems in my life, right? So listen to the bells and whistles that are going off. Understand that you're not alone. We're all struggling. We're all in the arena. We're all doing our very best to be a good human being, and you are too. And so use the resources, get the help, talk to someone. And then I think what you'll find, if you understand that, is that you will actually not only be a better human, be happier, but your job performance will go up, your promotion will go up, your ability to help others will go up. It just impacts every facet of your life. Your mental health is so important. And so don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to, do the work, because it is hard. It is work. I'm not going to lie to you and say that it's not hard. Every time I share my story, it's hard, but it's worth it. There's a lot of value in that. And I think what you find on the end of this is that, it was all worth it, that you will find that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And then the last thing I'll just say is every leader, every person in my life, that every mentor I've ever had that I kind of forgot about or lost sight of when I was in this really dark place, every leader or mentor, and even if you don't think you have someone, I promise you, you do. I care about you, right? People care about you. People want you. We deserve to see the best you. And then I'll drop the mic on this one. You deserve to be loved for who you are. You deserve to be a part of the community. You deserve to be a part of the tribe. We love you. We want you to be your best self. So anything that's holding you back from getting there, get through it.
Well, that is a mic drop. You deserve to be loved. You deserve to be part of the community. Absolutely outstanding. Bosun mate, Chief Petty Officer, appreciate you. Great story, timely story. And I will say this with you on the line. If you're thinking of committing suicide, if you're thinking of hurting yourself, if you're thinking of hurting somebody else, don't. Reach out. Get the help that you need right now. Call the 1-800 numbers. Hit somebody up in their messages. I reached out last week after Sherman Gillum's. I asked everybody to reach out. I will continue to ask people to reach out to make people they have lost touch with and give them maybe that one little spark that stops them. I appreciate you, Chief Petty Officer Jeff, my friend. I know our sailors out there needed to hear this story. I am going to ask everybody that tuned in, everybody that's listening right now or listens, to share this story on their page, not for the leadership within, not for Jeff Bayless, not for Mike Rodney or Veronica Scott. We don't need it. What we want is for people to hear the story, and if they need help, I'd rather them get a little bit of help right now so they don't make that ultimate sacrifice and make that decision that they can never take back. So please share that story. DC1, over to you before we say goodbye to our guest.
Yes, again, we can't say it enough. Please share this information. Just as Master Chief mentioned, it's not necessarily for us. We're not trying to get, even though we say like and share and all that, it's really not for us, for the likes. It's really, we come on here, we come on the Leadership Podcast because we want to share everyone's story. And we hope that it can resonate and help somebody out, and or that they can relate and know, just as Chief Bayless mentioned, that you're not alone. So again, we always say, please share this podcast with everybody and anybody. And thank you so much for tuning in this Friday. I appreciate your support. And Chief Bayless, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, all of us across the world and the nation. And we hope to also see your channel launch your Evolution podcast on YouTube.
You're going to help me, right?
I am, whatever you need. Hey,
cool.
Anybody out there, if you need a little bit of you need a cheerleader, I'm your cheerleader. You're thinking about doing something, you want to spread the word, you want to help people out, you let me know. I want to help you out too.
Cool.
So I'm free to.
I just want to take a second to recognize you guys. I have a podcast, so I understand what it's like to, and then when you finish getting interviewed, you're like, oh my God, I talked the whole time, right? But I just want to shine the light in your direction, right? Like what the work you guys are doing is remarkable. We need more of these meaningful conversations. And like we were talking about, Master Chief, this is where sailors are, and we need to talk to them where they are. Like sending out a sit rep or a message traffic is not where they're operating. So we need to talk sailors where they are. So hats off to both of you. I appreciate the work you're doing. It's remarkable. It's very valuable and very needed. So good job, guys. You're doing amazing work, and I'm your number one fan.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you. Be great in everything you do, my friend. Be gooder. Boom. I appreciate you. Everybody check them out, and we got the links. Continue to be great, and we're going to kick you off now, Chief. So be great. We'll talk with you later.
See you guys.
Thanks, Chief.
DC1, wow. That was a heavy conversation, especially in the beginning. just so everybody knows, hello, Jackson. My son just walked in the room.
Hey, Jackson.
Just so everybody knows, we don't just hit people like that. Jeff and I had talked previously, and I made sure that he was okay with those lines of questions, with it being very direct. And he's a great man, and identifying your mistakes and overcoming them and sharing that story, that vulnerability that he talked about so much. That is what can hopefully make a difference in somebody not pulling that trigger tonight, not doing something that they cannot come back from. There's a thing that out there is that I'd rather listen to you now than read your eulogy later. That is 100%. If you need to hit me up, if you need to hit DC1 or Jeff,
Yes.
or he talked about the chaplains. I am not over religious, right? But I do know this: chaplains are bound by a different set of rules and ethics and morality, if you will, and what they can and cannot communicate. They are a great resource, regardless of your religious thoughts or beliefs. So please reach out to somebody that can help. And
Yes. And I could also say, just to add on to that, by reaching out to any three of us, I can say on our behalves that no judgment at all.
none.
We could just listen. We'll be on the other side of the line. We don't have to say anything, but just listen.
100%, and offer you that guidance. Look, Senior Tool, Chief Recruiter of InTag Pittsburgh, also just threw his phone number up there.
Thank you, Senior.
Yes, that's awesome. And I know that over time we've had a lot of people put those things up there. So we're going to, Joey's down here now too, climbing over the bench next to me.
What's up, Joey?
So Joey, say hi.
Hi.
Don't trip.
Hi,
over.
Joey.
Hi.
All right. Away with you, son. All right, come here, Sadie.
Hi.
There's Sadie. She wants to
Hi,
say,
beautiful.
there we go. All right, Jackson. Jackson lost his first tooth, so I'm sure he wants to
Yay, Tooth Fairy money.
out.
Hey, Jack. Ooh, that's going to be a lot of money.
So get out of here. All right, so there's that. All right, so we're going to do something else real quick. And what we're going to talk about is the world is apparently on a coin shortage. It's something I've read on the news lately.
I've seen it in the stores. They said use exact change or money or a credit card because we don't have any change.
Who's hoarding pennies? That's what I want to know. So
Like toilet paper.
one, I threw this at you today. We're going to add our 2 cents just to help out the world with their coin shortage. So I'm going to give you my penny, and then she's going to give you your penny, and together we're going to give you our 2 cents. So if you don't like this, let us know, and we'll continue to do it. I have seen on the Facebook, I've seen on Twitter and all of these things. This is my 1 cent of the 2 cents. People reacting to sensationalistic headlines is destroying us. It is hurting the conversations that need to be had, right? Whether we're talking about racism or we're talking about suicide or we're talking about anything drastic in the world.
I love them. They want to hear too. They want to hear your
They want
side.
to hear too. But if you're reacting to a sensationalistic headline and you're putting it out there as fact and you haven't actually read the story, or you haven't done your homework or your due diligence in those things, I ask that you just take a step back, take a moment, and realize, is that headline trying to help us, to heal us, or to divide us? And what you'll find more often than not, those headlines are there for one specific reason and one specific reason only, and that is to divide us as a nation, as a humanity. And I ask of you, before you post that, before you preach that, before you go to the next step with that, whatever it is, ask if you're helping the situation or if you're hurting. So do your due diligence, do the right thing. That is my 1 cent of the 2 cent. And DC1, you are now on the spot for your penny.
Okay. So the first thing that comes to my mind for this week and the kiddos, Big virtual hug. Hey, you twisted arms back there? We got you on live.
No, he almost fell over the cord, and I
Get out
had
of here.
to catch him. He almost
You
fell
guys
over
saw that,
the
right?
cord. It was not a grab arm twist. I didn't put him in an arm bar. I wasn't taking him down. He literally almost fell over the cord.
Okay. All right. So my other scent to add to the two for this week would have to be gossip. If it's not going to, and I guess the same, somewhat along, they're kind of related to each other, right? So if you hear people, and this happens a lot, whether it's from jealousy or hating, haters gonna hate type of thing. I mean, there is no purpose or good reason for gossip. If you have a question, you're wondering something, somebody's talking about somebody else, and for whatever reason it has something to do with you, go directly to the situation, to the problem, to that person, and just squash and smash gossip, because it doesn't do it any good for anybody, and it's not needed. We already have so much going on in the world. It's an additional not needed type of energy. So I just say, like, go out there and always try to be positive. And if you find yourself within a circle of people talking about other people, either bringing people down, either walk away or just, I want to say, put people in their place, like in a negative type of way, but change the subject, or say, just point it out that it's not necessary. So lead with love, positive energy, and bring that into the world, because we need more of that. And that's my scent.
100%. This show has gone off the rails with my children. You saw my wife's arm with the Swiffer opening the blind. We have completely lost control.
Awesome. That's so awesome.
Tapping me. He wants something. I do want to add something to your gossip thing. And Danny Borcelli and I used to be in San Antonio. And I remember having.
Wait, hold on 1 second. I think something happened.
Can you still hear me?
You're kind of frozen, but no, there you are. I think the blinds open and it brought in something. No, I'm kidding. But okay, you and Chief Porcelli were in San Antonio.
Nah, am I still here?
Yeah, you're still here now. I can hear you.
Okay. All right. I think I lost everything there. Like, this show is really gone to the pits now at the end. But Danny Porcelli, I would tell him that you can't lie to me about me. Like I know what I did. I know what I said. You can't come in here and gossip about me to myself. And it was along those same lines of people just spreading rumors and gossip. It's horrible. So I think I lost you guys for a while. Kids are running around. Wife's breaking out the Swiffer. Everybody's making noise.
That's awesome. No. I love it. And I'm sure other people can relate, because it's real life. We are keeping it real today.
It is.
It happens.
I'm gonna take them in the basement next time. Now the wife's moving chairs. I don't know what is going on in my life right now.
It's okay. We don't hear that.
So, but I'm gonna lock them in the basement from now on.
Oh my gosh.
And we don't have a real basement. It's like rocks and there's water running all over. That's crazy. So
as long as they have food and water, right?
The water's in the bilge. Like, there's a bilge down there with a pump. It's crazy. Life is good. Life is good. So kids are outside running around, running amok. So this is life. This is us. This is the leadership within. And then we froze for a while. At least I froze for a little bit. But we don't have we do have a special guest next week. Oh. I have not informed you, DC1.
So it's new to all of us. Let's all
I don't know what members and I don't know what members of the Good to Great with Crazy 8 that are going to be on next week.
Oh, one of the members?
But at least one, maybe multiple. And so the Good to Great with Crazy 8s again. We pump each other up here in different categories. Savage Hour, Good to Great with Crazy 8s. I know there's other ones, and they always put the stuff in there. So at least one member, maybe up to 3 will get on. So we'll see. Kind of a little thing. We'll hit back and forth. But look, the big message this week before we sign off, the last thing I want to say before I give it to you, DC1, don't kill yourself. Don't do it.
We love you.
We do. We love you.
We care.
You need to be part of this community of Earth, and you're a human being. You deserve that love. You deserve that respect. And we want you here. Hit us up in the DMs if you need anything. Call us. Senior Tools number is still up there. Hit up Jeff Bayless. Hit up a chaplain. Hit up Sherman Gillums. Hit up his CMO. Hit up somebody if you need help. Reach out and understand that you are not by yourself in this. We're here to help. So let us know. DC1, over to you.
Yes. Once again, before we end here, again, we just want to say thank you so much for your support. We really, really do appreciate your support and tuning in with us. If for whatever reason you missed it, you just logged in late, no worries, we got you covered. Feel free to check us out in any of our previous episodes on Facebook or YouTube. It's all there. Like, share, subscribe, hit that alert button so you don't miss out on any of our future podcasts. And if for whatever reason you see what we can do better or have any ideas for our show, we would love to hear them. So make sure that you send us a direct message, either one of us or on the YouTube channel. I think you can send a message there, but definitely on Facebook and our Messenger. We're always checking that. So again, thank you. We hope you all have a great weekend and are able to enjoy yourself and or your family.
And everybody be blessed. We are out. And let's see how long it takes.